Welcome, everybody, to the League of Women Voters of Merced County's Candidates Night for the office of Mayor of Merced. My name is Mary Hoffman. I'm a League member, and I'll be asking the candidates 8 questions, and they will have 90 seconds each to respond to those questions. We want to thank the Merced County Office of Education for helping us put this program on, and in particular, Merced Educational Television for producing and editing this program for viewing on social media. For the people watching, you'll be able to watch the program in its entirety, or you will be able to click on a specific question and listen to just the responses for that question. So we're excited about doing this, and we are going to begin. As we've done in the past, folks, we will change the first responder each time so that nobody's in the hot seat every single time. And I know nobody likes to be the first, but Nicola, you're going to be the first for the first question. What do you envision as the role of the mayor in Merced?
I envision the role of the mayor as being the face of the city. It is the person that people can come and talk to. It is the person that runs the city council meetings. It is the person that has direct contact with the city manager. It is the person that you see when you have a problem or if you have a recommendation. The mayor is the person that is supposed to be approachable to take whatever your concerns are to the city. That is the role of the mayor. It's kind of like a parent.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lohr.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event, and thank all the audience for participating on this event also. I'm one of the most experienced city council members. I serve over 3 city managers over the years. And this is what I will do for the city of Merced. You know, I'm going to have a youth commissioner sit at the Merced City Council dais with the City Council during our meeting. I will put incentive for business up to $50,000. This is going to be public-private partnership for any new invention business. At the same time, I'm going to build a tricycle park for our newborn and up to 5 years, 7 years youth so that they can enjoy. My envision for the city of Merced is, you know, a youth-friendly city. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Ms. Murphy.
Yeah, the role of the mayor. I'd like to thank the League for hosting us tonight as well, and for the service you provide, and the service you provide to me as well. I'm a member of the League, and the value that we get from that. In terms of the role of the mayor is the elected leader of the city, not elected from a particular district, but there to represent all constituents in the city. The mayor needs to have vision, needs to have direction, be a consensus builder, especially as we move to district elections where we'll have members of the city council that have much more narrow constituencies. And I view the role as mayor to be one of bringing those voices together. They've all been put there and elected by someone, and many people, neighborhoods, and they all deserve to be heard. The mayor has critical roles in terms of UC Merced relationships, especially this next term. There's going to be a tremendous amount of growth that happens over the next 2 and then 4 years with UC Merced's 2020 plan. Also important with downtown relationships, business relationships, neighborhood relationships. Those are all things that the next mayor needs to have a skill set that can address. And finally, the mayor needs to be someone that is our advocate in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Pedroso.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me here this evening, and thank you for having us. This is a question that I think about quite a lot. And, I'm running for the mayor of Merced because I love this community. And I think that there is a tremendous amount of potential that this community has. And potential can be both a positive and a negative. And it's positive if you act on it, it's negative if you don't. And I think that the next mayor for the city of Merced has to do everything they can to act upon that positive by creating a vision, by making sure that the community partners are following that vision, and that you're building consensus amongst the community to make sure that we are moving Merced forward. One of the things that, as a mayor of Merced, I want to make sure that we're building, as we go to districts, we're building a community that focuses on inclusion and excellence. And I think that we've gone away from that. And I think that one of the best things that we can do together as a community is work to make sure that that vision is successful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. This question is on economic development, and we will start with Mr. Lohr. The question is, and it should be up there too. Okay. Okay. What exactly does economic development mean to you? What kinds of development should we encourage, and what kinds of development should we not encourage?
Thank you for the questions. Over the years, we have not put any money into economic development with the city's budget. And if I'm the city mayor, I will certainly allocate more money into economic development so that we can do more projects. Our staff have more time to attract business coming to town. At the same time, we need to be a good partnership with UC Merced so that any things that UC Merced build, we have the opportunity to recruit business from elsewhere to start in Merced also. And that's what is very important. At the same time, I will make sure that we hire more youth to work so that they don't have other opportunity to do things that the community, doesn't like in our city.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Murphy?
Economic development means a few things depending on the part of the city that we're talking about. So at the Mission Avenue interchange, for example, that means an industrial park that needs to be filled. It means regional retail to pull travelers off the highway. Economic development downtown means infill, retail, restaurants, entertainment. Technology needs to be part of the picture, especially along the Bellevue corridor in Merced. So they're all things that we need to do depending on, we've set plans in place, and it's time to execute on those plans. And, one thing I want to mention is that the Chamber of Commerce interviewed all of us and gave us a set of questions about economic development. At the end of that process, they endorsed one candidate for mayor. They endorsed me. I'm a business owner myself, and I understand that when we make decisions as a city council, whether they relate to how big or small your sign can be, the environmental impacts that need to be mitigated, fire inspection fees, I understand how those impact me directly as a business owner, and I think that's an important perspective to have.
Thank you. Mr. Pedroso?
Thank you. Yeah, this is something that's really important to me. Whereas I'm not a business owner myself, I graduated from college with a business degree and grew up on a family farm with a dairy and had to see some tough decisions being made from both my grandfather and my dad as business owners to make sure that they were being as successful as they can and, providing something to our family and the community. The other thing, economic development means a lot to me. And when we talk about economic development and jobs, it's really a multifaceted approach. There's so many different areas that we need to look at on who we're attracting, who we're recruiting, and how we're making sure that we're attaining those jobs, I think is one thing that's incredibly important. Right now we have a workforce that I think we can do better on working with our partnerships with Merced College, with UC Merced, to make sure that our employees and the citizens of Merced are prepared to work with the jobs that are coming in and the different types of industry that are coming in. And I think that we need to make sure that our economic development department has the tools and the resources to be able to go out and recruit that, and then also make sure that they, like I said, we are retaining those, that they're staying here, because I think that's what's going to make us successful.
Thank you. Mrs. Adams?
First, I want to apologize for not saying thank you very much to the League of Women Voters for
It's okay.
inviting us here. I came in on such a whim. But economic development means a lot of things, and it depends on who you talk to about the economic development. I am the Bernie Sanders of the group. I am not endorsed by anyone. I always say I will be endorsed by the voters at the polls. I am a third-generation welfare mother who worked her way off welfare, started my cookie company with my food stamps and welfare checks. I've owned my cookie company for over almost 23 years now. And with the economic development, we need to have jobs that pay more than minimum wage, that also have health benefits, vision and dental for the employees that are here. When we look at economic development, we have Castle Air Force Base, which is a big development out there that is being unused. We have something that the Silicon Valley no longer has, and that is space and land. We can court those companies to come here. We have the UC students who are also the workers there. Bringing festivals here, annual Nut Festival. We have a $3 billion industry in our county. We supply 85 to 90% of the world with almonds, walnuts, and pistachios, yet we have it not coming into the city. Bringing that festival in here will generate millions of dollars and will help bring other businesses into our city, and that will have an influx. It will raise all levels of economic development for those who are already in the workforce, but those who are also looking for something better for their lives and their families.
Thank you. This question is on infrastructure, and we'll begin with Mr. Murphy. Given the limited amount of funding available for road paving each year in the city, how do you feel the city should prioritize which roads get repaired? Which roads do you feel should have priority, and why?
Well, you've touched on a subject that has been something I've been advocating for on the city council, and that is we need to have a master plan for how our roads are going to be repaired and maintained, rather than just on an ad hoc basis and who can come and be the loudest at City Hall. These should be objective criteria about the condition of our roads, especially as we move to districts, because there's going to be a tendency for council members to want to only advocate for roads in their districts when there might in fact be another road or roads that are more in need. So the priority has to be on having an update to our master road plan and prioritizing arterials that get the most use from our residents on down to collector streets and neighborhood streets. But I believe that those arterials, which are in the worst shape, need to be the top priority, along with a master plan that we can agree on. Maybe your district isn't going to get a road repair this year, but we know that you're in line, for example, next year with the limited amount of funding that we have.
Thank you. Mr. Pedurzo.
Thank you. This is something that I've worked on for quite some time. I've spent the last 3 years advocating for Campus Parkway and making sure that Campus Parkway is something that, as a main roadway and as a connector between two state highways 140 and 99, it's something that we need to focus on and focus on the development of, because there's industrial park space out there, there's retail space. We need to make sure that that's done. But we also need to look at, the roads, not just, our main arterials, because our main arterial roads are failing. There are some big spots to that. But I drop my son off every morning at school, and there's big potholes and big holes at the asphalt that's kicking up. We need to look at all of that, and we need to make sure that as we are, going through the district process and making sure that as we were talking about the infrastructure and improvements in infrastructure, that we're, creating a list of priorities and what are the priorities of the community, and making sure that we are keeping everybody safe. We also need to maintain, as part of the infrastructure and transportation, we've done light synchronization, for environmental quality. We need to make sure that we are continuing to do that and focusing on some of those quality of life issues that I think our residents deserve.
Thank you. Mrs. Adams.
Well, when you look at prioritizing your roads, I drive all over the city every single week with my cookie company. My business goes all the way out from UC Merced to John Deere, from Home Depot to Golden Valley. I am all over this city, literally, in the alleys, lots of businesses. And I see where a lot of our roads haven't been maintained for the last 30 years. And so a lot of those are out by where the old Pepsi plant is, a lot of the older homes in UC Merced, South Merced. A lot of those roads haven't been fixed. Those people haven't seen any maintenance whatsoever, like I said, in over 30 years. I am the only candidate that was born and raised in South Merced, had a business in downtown Merced, and now live in Merced. Again, all over the city, I see that these are some of our worst roads. We need to concentrate on that. And then the roads that bring people in and out of the city, our on-ramps, off-ramps, those things. People see, businesses see how we are. What we look like before they move here. These are some of the things that we really need to keep up and keep in some of the best conditions in order to attract them. Because a lot of our city looks like a ghetto coming into our city and going out, and that's the truth. And so we really need to make sure that those parts of the city are the ones that are maintained first in order to get more infrastructure in here.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lohr.
Thank you. Infrastructure is very important. Over the years, when we have our budget session at City Hall, we only include department heads, city council members, prioritize projects, and we have our star and choose which one is most important and rate by that way. I think it's very important for the city to engage the city citizens, neighborhood, to do the same, have citizens to prioritize which roads. It's very important that we start with business, road that run through business, and also neighborhood. And we need to do more engaging with the citizens in that way so that we can have citizens participate in the process. At the same time, if a neighborhood road is very run down, it will increase or attract more crime. So that we need to also pay attention to that way. When we go to our district this year, it's very important that we have a good engagement with our citizen and neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Now we're going to be moving into a quality of life question. And we'll be beginning with Mr. Pedroso. We talk often about quality of life issues being an important element in making Merced an attractive place to live. How would you define quality of life for Merced? And what do you think it would take to get Merced up to your ideal?
Thank you. This is something that I feel very strongly about. I know that we have some codes on the books that currently aren't being enforced because of lack of resources. For example, our panhandling ordinance for downtown. That's something that has not been enforced to the level as it could be, which I think we need to focus on. And we need to make sure that people are provided with the services that they need, that they want, because nobody wants to get hit up or get bothered as they're just kind of going about their way of life. The other big issue that I see is the recyclers and the people that are going through the garbages at night and that type of stuff. I never want to condemn anyone or say that's act like their way of life isn't okay, but the fact that it's 2016 and what we're doing to create an environment that they don't feel like they should have to do that we are taking care of them. And it's about a sense of safety and security and making sure that our parks are well kept, our parks are maintained, our streets are maintained. You have a good community where people want to be here. It's about creating, and as mayor, creating a destination, not just a location of Merced. And by doing that, we focus on some of these quality of life, like the garbages, like the panhandling, the camping ordinance, those types of things that we focus on and making sure that people feel safe and secure.
Thank you. Mrs. Adams.
Okay, when we talk about the quality of life, again, your quality of life may not mean quality of life to me, but this is what I see as a general of quality of life. What people talk about a lot in our communities is having better health care. More qualified physicians here because a lot have left the area, or having access to it because a lot of people don't have access to quality health care. Also, better jobs that pay, that have vision, dental, health insurance. That is something that I know the UDW workers are lobbying our Board of Supervisors now for over a year. Activities for families. If you want to have a birthday party or something, an activity, you have to drive to Modesto or Fresno. We have absolutely nothing here. We need to start bringing these things here. Having things to do for our kids ages 12 to 18. We absolutely have nothing for them to do. That is why we have so many kids joining gangs now. It's because we don't have that. And that is a quality of life. That is a quality of life that most parents want, is for their kids to have a place where they can grow up and they can be safe. We want to be safe. And having that structure there, we have a lower crime rate. Also, if we've got a summer youth employment program, the kids are working instead of breaking into your house while you're at work. These are all part of quality of life standards in our community. Everyone wants a safe community, and everyone wants a great family atmosphere.
Thank you. Mr. Lohr.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the question. The question is quality of life, or in other words, say, can you walk in your neighborhood without fear? And that's very important. That's why I want to build a tricycle park for our youth. At the same time, I want to get young people to work, especially young adults and teens. I want to make sure that any contract we put in place a system that will hire our young people to work. Also, I want to increase our dollar into economic development. At the same time, I want to put incentive for business owners to start in Merced. If we have a lot of business started, we're going to have a better quality of life. And that's why I want to be a good partnership with public-private, put incentive up to $50,000 for new invention business. And that's very important. That's going to help hire our young people to work. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Murphy.
Well, first off, I'd say quality of life. Mercedians aren't so concerned about who's going to fix things, but rather they get fixed. Quality of life includes quality education, quality health care, quality libraries. None of those are within the direct purview of the City Council, but I mention that because it's important that the City Council and the mayor in particular work with school boards, work with the county board to make sure that those things happen. With respect to the things that the City Council makes decisions and has jurisdiction over, we all want safe and livable neighborhoods. We all want to be safe and in our homes, in our downtown core, when we leave the home, when we have friends over. And we want to have a family-friendly environment for our children where we feel like we can stay here in Merced to spend our dollars rather than head north or south for a fun day's activity. It means not being panhandled aggressively when you're getting out of the car in the parking lot to go catch a movie or dinner. And with respect to parks, I think that means that we take the approach of having parks that are clean and in good repair. We can do that. It means helping to address the homeless situation in terms of providing resources for those that really need it, but also understanding that there's an economic impact that we have to take into account as well, and being compassionate but firm with that.
Thank you. The next question is specifically on the downtown. And the question is, how do you envision harnessing the potential of downtown Merced? And we'll begin with Mrs. Adams.
One of the things I keep talking about is the annual Nut Festival. We have thousands of visitors that come through us with millions of dollars on their way to the Bay Area, on their way to Yosemite, but they come through us and not to us. And bringing the annual Nut Festival here will bring in thousands of visitors to our city every single year. It will fill up our businesses downtown. It will make people want to move here. It's kind of like going to Cambria. Have you ever gone to Cambria? Cambria is a beautiful place to where you just kind of want to move there, set up an antique shop. That's the same way that could be with Merced. We could make Merced so friendly with our festivals that people just want to move here. We're also Bike City USA. You know, we can bring more things with bicycles, bring back our bicycle races. You know, that brings in a lot of people. The Gilroy Garlic Festival, that's what the Almond Festival, it would be on the level of that. But they had 80,000 visitors this year and brought in $1.7 million to that city. And it's smaller than we are. So we can actually do this, partner with the Department of Agriculture, a lot of different things. I'm a 4-H leader with UC Merced Cooperative Extension Program. You know, bringing our kids in there, bringing in 4-H, we could really pull this off to where Merced becomes a destination place, and all of our businesses downtown will be filled because people will want to be here, and they'll want to come downtown, and they'll feel safe doing it.
Thank you. Mr. Lohr.
Thank you. Downtown Merced is very important for our city also. And, you know, I would like to put solar rooftop on any parking lot and use those energies for any kind of business, any business that will hire our youth. And we will use that dollar help offset some of the costs for business that hire youth in the downtown area. Second project I would like to promote is doing cultural festivities more often in the downtown area. Will encourage every part of the city to be part of downtown.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy.
Only 90 seconds for this one.
Sorry.
So I think that the next 2 years and 4 years are going to be extremely exciting for downtown Merced. I'm a downtown business owner on Canal Street, just 3 blocks from Bob Hart Square. I see the potential of downtown, and I've invested in there personally, both with my business and dollars I've put into real estate where I work. The UC Merced 2020 project is going to be hugely important for the downtown area. The fact that UC Merced is putting in a 3-story building that's going to employ nearly 400 people that are going to be relying on downtown merchants is wonderful, to say the least. The El Capitan Hotel is being restored and renovated. I think that's a monumental time for the city. This is outside investment dollars that are coming in at a time when we don't have redevelopment dollars from the state anymore. At the same time, the Mainzer Theater is going to be renovated and restored. Also very exciting. We have interest in the lot kitty corner from City Hall to be a mixed-use development with retail on the bottom and market rate housing above. The Venture Lab is downtown, a project that I championed and that we planned for in the conference room of my office, making that a reality. And finally, any discussion of downtown has to talk about being ready for high-speed rail. You know, whether you're an advocate or not, being ready is important.
Thank you. Mr. Pedroso.
Thank you. I think this downtown also can go back to the quality of life issue. You know, when you look at any downtown, you look at the core of the community. I lived in San Luis Obispo for 4 years while I was at school, and the downtown was a place that attracted everybody because there was a lot to do there, and a lot of people wanted to be there. And I think it's important that we create that and look at their model and make sure that we don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel, but we are bringing it back to our city. You know, we have the theater that we renovated. That theater is a jewel in Merced, and I think it's something that we can use as a cornerstone to accentuate the positives and then also recruit and build upon that. I think it's also important that we work with our partners. One of the things on the council is we've said we've wanted to make this an entertainment district where we're pulling in entertainment to make sure that people want to be there. We have worked with DART, something that I think is incredibly important through our police department, that's going through and looking at some of those safety concerns that people have. And the last thing is, I'm in favor of high-speed rail because I think it provides us an opportunity to really build our potential for downtown and to really act upon that. And like I said earlier, it builds upon the aspect of turning Merced into a destination and not just a location. And then finally, sometimes I believe that we need to change. I believe that we can be our own worst enemy. And when we talk about downtown, we don't talk about accentuating the positives. We talk about some of the negatives of it, and it's time to change the perception, and I'm the one that can do that.
Thank you. This question will begin with Mr. Lohr, and it's on budget. What are your budget priorities for Merced?
We work on budget every year, and it's very important that for me, we need to engage our citizens, neighborhood, to participate in our budget priority also. At the same time, we need to make sure that we have good dollar in business development so that we can start working with UC Merced and other institutions that will bring quality job, high-paying job into Merced. At the same time, we need to prioritize our crime prevention program. I would put more money into our senior volunteer program so that they can go out to the school to really engage our fourth, fifth grade student. We are in the competition with gang members to recruit these youngsters, and we need to start early. And I need to put more money into our volunteer program so that they can, at the police department, so that they can start working with these young people.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy?
As mayor, my priorities for the budget are that it's, number one, balanced, that the process is collaborative, and that it's transparent. So when I took office, the city was spending about $2.5 million in deficit spending each year, and all the low-hanging fruit had been picked, meaning that none of the tough decisions were really made. I've always only voted for balanced budgets, and I've sharpened my pencil every time to make sure that it is. Bringing calculators and pencils to budget meetings when not everyone came prepared that way. In terms of collaborative, town hall meetings are there for a reason, so we can hear input from people that really want to have their voice heard by their elected officials. And transparency. I champion the effort to have the budget put online in a manner that's accessible. So the budget's been available online for some time, but it was a long, 500-page PDF document that you had to, take forever to download if you had a slow internet connection. It's much more accessible now through our partnership with OpenGov, and you can see where every dollar is spent. All of our tax dollars are spent, and where all of our revenue comes from. That's hugely important to me. In terms of where the dollars are spent, I think the priorities for the city have to be economic development, public safety, and quality of life. Economic development is the key to everything that we want to do. That's what brings in increased sales tax revenue. That's what gives people paychecks where they can spend their money back in the city, and makes property values go up and property taxes increase.
Thank you. And Mr. Pedroso?
Thank you. This is something that I think about quite a bit because budget sustainability is something that is incredibly important to me. I'm the only person up here on this dais that has had to vote to lay off city employees. It's one of the hardest votes and decisions I've ever had to make, but it's something that needed to be done because the city of Merced was drowning. We weren't in a good position, and I thought that it was something that in order to make sure that we are increasing our potential and doing something that's going to sustain the city of Merced long term, it was something that we had to do. I'm not proud of it, but I'm proud of the fact that the city of Merced is in a better position now financially than we were when I took office. I think when we look at budget sustainability and budget priorities. It's about being inclusive of the process and making sure that everybody feels that they have a seat at the table. We talk about, jobs and job creation. Are we preparing ourselves for the infrastructure? Are we being able to spend the money on the infrastructure that's needed? Roads, underground infrastructure, to make sure that we are truly a shovel-ready community. Public safety. We have 84 sworn officers. We are budgeted for 91. We need to make sure that we are providing the resources through predictive policing software and those others, and other tools that our public safety officers can use. And then youth development. How are we working with our partners to make sure that we are providing those avenues of success for them?
Thank you. Mrs. Adams.
I agree with Councilman Murphy that we do need to have a balanced budget. But also, we need to make sure our departments are funded that they can adequately serve the city. One of our departments that are underfunded is the Public Works Department. Those people are still in the building that they originally were in since the 1960s. Without Public Works, the city would not function. They do our refuse pickup, our city water. They're the ones who come out and fill the potholes. They do the roads, all of that. So we have to make sure that our departments are funded adequately, especially those that really help keep the city going. Another thing that we have to do is we have to look at youth programs. That's something that's been quite defunded. In fact, I used to be a commissioner for the City of Merced Parks and Recreation Department. And during that, we had the mobile rec. We had a lot of things that we had for kids to do, youth sports, other things for the youth, and it got cut back to where it was only 1% of the budget. And then we started noticing a lot of kids getting into trouble. And so one of the things is we have to make sure our youth know that they count, that the city really values them because they are our future. And if we keep discarding our future, we're not going to have a great one.
Thank you. The next question regards planning. The City Council has adopted a long-range general plan for the city of Merced. How familiar are you with the planning, with the general plan, and how would you go about ensuring that the city follows its long-range objectives? And we'll begin with Mr. Murphy.
Yeah, so I'm very familiar with the city's general plan, the 2030 general plan. It was one of the first things that I was able to take action on as a council member. I've served one term on the city council and was able to approve that general plan. And over the course of 5 years, I've had the opportunity to frequently refer back to that document as a guide for where we want to be long term. Not just where the city limits are, but where do we want to grow and where do we not want to grow. Recognizing that infill development is going to be critical to having a vibrant and healthy community, the type that we all want. And it's also, of course, a reference as requests are made to do a zone change. And there's a process for that. And understanding that there needs to be public input and opportunity for all sides to understand the impacts and allow the city council to weigh all aspects of that. So I'm very familiar with it, and am an advocate for following those long-range objectives that have been put in place.
Thank you. Mr. Pedroso.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very familiar with the general plan. I've been talking about the general plan and working on the general plan since 2009 when I was elected. And, one of the things that was important was the original footprint of the plan itself was environmentally unsustainable. And there's numerous people that I spoke with. In fact, one of them's in this room, Ms. Okuye in the back, I talked with about water sustainability and how we were going to plan for water to make sure that we're getting it out as far as the plan wanted to go. And so we pared it down significantly to make sure that we were looking at the long-range growth and the long-range plan for the city of Merced. I think that it's something that we need to stick to. I think that the reason why you have a plan is even though sometimes you may deviate from it, you have the options for people to come to Planning Commission and the City Council to ask for amendments or alternatives, but we keep that as a guide to ensure the growth and the positive growth in the city of Merced. It was asked earlier, what's your vision for growth and how do you envision growth to be for the city? Well, you have a plan, you stick to that plan, but you look at it to make sure that you have that guiding principles in place so that as requests are brought to either the planning commission or city council, we have that document that'll prepare us to make the decisions we need.
Thank you. Mrs. Adams?
I am not on the council, so I am not very versed in the general plan, but I do know some about it. I also know that general plans are a guide, and it's good to stick with a guide, but within the next 5 years, we're going to be changing. Merced's growth is going to be much larger than it is. The UC population is going to be larger with our districts that we've gone to. There's going to be several different things. The high-speed rail coming in. There's going to be a lot of changes in Merced. Merced is growing and it's becoming more diverse. And in 5 years, that general plan may not work for us. With the drought, everything that's happening, there's a lot of things that could happen within 5 years. As we all know, when we're planning a trip, sometimes that trip gets deviated almost all the time. You can go, this is the places that we wanted to go, and these are the places that we wanted to see. And a lot of times we don't make it to everything, or we don't stay as long as we want. And that's kind of how a plan is. You have something in action that goes, yeah, it's a guide, but it's not in stone.
Thank you. Mr. Lohr?
Thank you. The General Plan 2030. During the council, city council members work on it, vote on it, adopt it. Our General Plan 2030. We understand that Merced will certainly grow up north, but at the same time, don't forget that Highway 59, J Street, and Martin Luther King. We need to also work on that project also. We cannot just work on one part of the city, hope that everything's going to grow toward UC Merced and forget about our southern part, Martin Luther King or J Street or Highway 59. We need to provide incentive for developer to really help develop our southern part so that, everybody can enjoy quality of life in Merced.
This question, our 8th question, involves your personal goals for Merced. So if you are elected mayor, what are your top 3 issues that you would focus on in your first year in office? How would you go about getting consensus on the city council? And we'll begin with Mr. Pedroso.
Thank you. My top 3 goals for mayor and as mayor of the city of Merced are economic development, making sure that we are creating an environment that we are attracting and retaining businesses in Merced. It's also about building partnerships and that we're collaborating with our partners in Merced, whether it's the Merced City School District, whether it's Merced College, Merced Union High School District, the League of Women Voters. I think it's important that we put our collective heads together and come up with some solutions to the issues that we face. I think that's the only way that we can work together or solve the problems is by working together. I think that public safety is something that we need to maintain a focus on, and part of public safety is quality of life. It's not just making sure that we have as many police officers on the street or firefighters. It's making sure that we're addressing some of those issues, like some of the aggressive panhandling, like some of the homeless issues, like some of the garbage recycling that goes on. That we're doing our part to address that. The last one is youth development. I think it's incredibly important. I mean, the youth are the future of our community. I've made a career out of working with youth and looking at what the youth need and making sure that we are all working together to make sure that their futures are just as good as ours were, if not providing them opportunities, maybe in some instances better than what we had. And I think that as a community, when we work together, we can achieve that. And I think that those are the best, the top 3. Finally, just real quickly, is about changing the narrative of the city of Merced. And you need a mayor that's going to be a champion for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Adams?
My top 3 issues, everybody talks about economic development, public safety, and the homeless. Those are hot button topics any city you go to, anywhere you go to. Those are not my hot topic buttons, and those are not the 3 top things I'd like to do as mayor of Merced. One of my top things is actually bringing that Almond Festival to Merced. That is something that will benefit all of us. Another thing is really working with the organizations that are already in our community, unifying them. Again, I said, Merced is such a diversified community, but yet we are so disconnected. We are multicultural, multi-language, different communities, LBGT community, and that is something that we really have to unite ourselves together if we really want to become a whole city. A rising tide rises all boats, and we have to lift everyone up. Another thing is also bringing in a summer youth employment program, working with PG&E, Target, all of these other things that do community partnerships to bring the funds in to help put at least 200 kids every summer to work. Those are things that our city needs. Those are things that we can do. Bringing in things for families to do with their kids so we don't have to go out of town, because only those families who can afford to go out of town get out of town. Those who can't stay here, and their kids are always left behind, and so are their families, and they feel forgotten.
Thank you. Mr. Lohr.
Again, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. My top three would be, one, my first 90 days would be have our youth commissioners sit on the dais with the city council. And the first year or first 2 years will be built a tricycle park for our youth. At the same time, increase the number of youth working in our cities. That's going to, every project that city put out will include hire a youth. That's very important. We have billions of dollars contract out, and we need to include our youth in that. At the same time, we need to put incentive for our students that graduate from Merced, or UC Merced, so that they can start business in Merced. We would not want to see made in China. We want to see made in Merced. And that's a business perspective that we want to see in Merced.
Thank you. And Mr. Murphy.
Yeah, so the question was about goals. And for me, goals have to be specific and achievable. And that's how I approach life. That's how I am able to achieve the things that I've done in my life. So just to say, economic development or public safety or quality of life or youth development or partnerships is not a goal for me. It's not specific. So what are the specifics? I'd like to have, downtown, the El Capitan Hotel renovated, the Mainzer Theater done. I'd like to have our first anchor tenant at the Mission Avenue interchange. I'd like to have half of the vacant retail downtown filled. The UC Merced building should be completed on that timeline as well. In terms of public safety, 3 to 5 officers each year. That's doable. We know we're down 20 officers. We can't do that overnight, but a goal that's achievable is 3 to 5 officers each year to cut back on just the tremendous amount of overtime that's happening in our department. Youth engagement, I think that goes hand in hand with public safety. Having the Boys and Girls Club open on the weekend, very achievable, but not happening right now. In terms of homelessness, a specific and achievable goal with respect to homelessness is to eliminate veteran homelessness in the city of Merced. We had dozens of homeless vets not long ago. We're down to 16 now. It's achievable. We can get rid of veteran homelessness in the city of Merced, and probably in the first year as I'm mayor.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for coming. Those were the 8 questions that were decided upon. If anybody wants to hang around afterwards and talk to individual candidates, I'm sure they would be happy to answer individual questions. But that was our plan for this evening. And let us hope it's successful and lots of people visit the website and see what they have to say. So thank you all.